Okay, it says we're live now. Let me check my mobile device to make sure that we are live, because you never know with technology nowadays. Let's see. Let's see. Yep, we're live. We're live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Collect All Monsters, a supplemental video. Oh, today is a happy day. It is a wonderful, wonderful day. Even though technically what we're celebrating has been celebrated a few days ago. But here we are celebrating the official 70th anniversary of everybody's favorite spiky boy, Godzilla's ally, his one-time foe, or at least two-time foe, I should say, Anguirus. Yes, we are celebrating the awesome four-legged kaiju, the irradiated ankylosaurus, the killer of the living, known as Anguirus. And Leslie P. Chambers, thank y'all for being here. Really do appreciate it. And of course, I'm not here alone. I got some wonderful, wonderful people joining me. Of course, next to me, to my, let's see, right, left, whatever.
That way.
That wonderful person right there. Quite, it's not arguable. It ain't arguable, ladies and gentlemen. She is the biggest Anguirus fan and the biggest Anguirus figure collector in the entirety of the world. The one and the only Jessica Etchells. How you doing, Jessie?
What's up, guys? It's a pleasure to be here. I'm always happy to talk about my spiky boy here. My best friend, let's celebrate his birthday. 70 years, going strong.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, thank you so much for being here. Really do appreciate it. Like I told you in our private chat, I really didn't want to do this stream without you because, again, you are Anguirus's #1 fan. We know that here in the fandom. And in case you don't know, you're going to have a good education today. So thank you so much for being here.
A pleasure.
And of course, you've seen this wonderful guy's face a few times on the channel before. He's one of the biggest pillars in our community. He's also one of my best friends in the whole daggone world. Mr. Fresh Vinyl himself, the one and the only Richard Eso. How you doing, Rich?
Good. First off, thank you, Leslie. Thank you for that introduction. But for Jessica, there is no stream without Jessica here. Like, you just don't do something Anguirus related and you don't have Jessica included. So thank you, Jess, for being here to be a part of this that Leslie put together, because if it wasn't, I'm like, what are we doing? Anyway, over to Nick.
And of course, bringing up on the rear, yes. Also a great pillar in our community. He's definitely a great pillar in the YouTube world with his awesome YouTube channel, The Monster Report, the one and the only Nick Adam Poling. How you doing, Nick?
Good to be here, everyone. I share a birthday with Mr. Leslie Chambers. So, yeah, October 6th, we're always talking about how we're brothers from another mother. I'm just so glad to be here with Rich, Jessica, here on Collect All Monsters. Been here a few times. Always an honor to collaborate with kaiju content creators, fanatics, and let's talk some Anguirus. I'm really excited about this. Anguirus. Sorry if I call him something different every single time because Ankylosaurus, yes. Anguirus, I've heard before too. I've heard it, or Anguirus. I mean, so many ways of saying it. But I guess we can forgive each other for if you say it the way that someone else doesn't say it. Whatever, right?
Absolutely. Before we go any further, let me highlight a few comments in the chat. Of course, you got Nathaniel Plummer. He's here. Thank you for being here. Let's see who else you got. Space Beast. Thank you so much for being here. Nathaniel Plummer again. The first comment, he said he was going to be at work. He was not able to catch the stream, but he's able to catch the stream. So thank you so much for being here. Of course, you got Joey Chapman. Of course, Fresh Vinyl Reviews. Who's that joker? Stalker. We got Fancies of Cats. Thank you for being here. Penzilla Fan 04. Really appreciate it. Of course, the Monster Report. Again, who's that joker? And of course, Tim Bartos. We got 20 people watching, so yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
What's up, everybody?
And you know what? Again, we're celebrating Anguirus, but we're going to actually begin the conversation, talk about our thoughts and feelings about the film that he debuted in, which again, he celebrated a birthday and anniversary this past week on April 24th. Yes, Godzilla Raids Again, the second Godzilla film in the franchise, turned officially 70 this past week, and that is where Anguirus made his first debut. But before we go any further, you know what, Nick, you just hit on something. Around the room right fast, because again, we go to Jessica, Rich, Nick, and myself. How in the hell do you say his name? Do you say Anguirus? Do you say Anguirus? Do you say Anguirus? Do you say Anguirus? Ankylosaurus? Angie? What? What? How do you pronounce his name? Because again, you're not wrong, whatever you do choose to say his name or how you say his name. So how do you say his name? Jessica, go first.
Okay, so I used to love the pronunciation of Anguirus. That's what I grew up knowing him as, but when Toho officially came out and was like, no, it's Anguirus, then that's what I just switched to. I went to the official name, and as much as it broke my heart to get rid of that L, I went with Anguirus.
Rich, what about you? What do you say?
I honestly kind of on the same boat with Jess. Grew up watching, Godzilla versus Gigan. So like there's the one line in the movie that's stuck in my head. Anguirus has entered Sagami Bay. But as I grew older, I became, I say Anguirus now. So Anguirus for me.
How about you, Nick?
I'm actually going to be in the oddball park here. I actually like Anguirus just with the L because, yeah, you still have the Japanese R turning into the L, Gojira to Godzilla, so every once in a while, I find myself just saying Angie to keep it short, but I also like Anguirus just because of that. I did remember, in the commentary with Steve Rifle, in the Godzilla Raids Again commentary, he would switch occasionally to different pronunciations, but yeah, Anguirus, I've always stuck with the L, but I'm also old school with that because that Gigan, Godzilla vs. Gigan was the first time I heard his name, just like you, Rich, and it was like that stuck with me, and I stick with it. Ghidra is the same thing for me. I'm still a Ghidra kind of guy, but every once in a while, someone's around me. Okay, you call it Ghidorah, we could still be friends, So, but yeah, don't judge me too much if I say Anguirus. We're talking about Angie, and we all know who we're talking about. But yeah, you're right, Jess. It's what the Japanese say he is. What the Japanese has said their character is. That's what they want you to go with.
And that's the thing. I bounce back and forth. I mean, like what you said, Nick, with the whole King Ghidorah thing. Sometimes I say King Ghidorah. There are times I say King Ghidorah. It just depends. And it's weird because with King Ghidorah, it's like, I don't know why, but I prefer to call the Showa one King Ghidorah, but yet the Heisei one King Ghidorah for some reason. I don't know why that is. But when it comes to Anguirus, but I am inclined to say Anguirus because again, I love Godzilla vs. Gigan. I grew up with that movie, and that's what they call him in that movie. But more so than not, when I say his name out loud, when I type it on a post on Facebook, it's normally Anguirus. So, but either way, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
We all grew up
Anguirus.
Anguirus. Just a side note, the Angie nickname came from myself and Christine because every time we would win one of these auctions, we'd always abbreviate his nickname or his name on the post, and we'd be like Angie Love. So
probably because Christine's lazy and she doesn't want to type the whole name.
Oh man, so yeah, either way, you're not wrong for saying Anguirus, Anguirus, Angie. It doesn't matter. We all know what we're talking about. Before we go into the first topic, let me highlight a few more comments in the comment section. Of course, we got Robert D. Thank you so much for being here. Oscar Solis, what's up, man? Of course, Monster Attitude, they're doing a show in a few hours. I'll talk more about that before we get up out of here. Speaking of Monster Attitude, we got Godzilla Train. What's going on, dude?
Adrian.
Of course, Greg Bettis. What's up, Greg? What's going on, dude? What's going on, man? Thank you so much for being here. All right, so again, this first topic we're going to talk about Godzilla Raids Again, and I have just 3 questions involved in that because again, I want to shift our focus to this show to more so on the Anguirus side. But it's kind of hard to ignore Godzilla Raids Again because again, Anguirus did make its debut. It did celebrate its anniversary this week. So I have 3 questions involved in that. First question: what is your favorite moment or scene from this film? Jessica, go.
So I go back and forth with this one, but ultimately my favorite scene is when him and Godzilla are just throwing down, going through those buildings. I mean, no other kaiju has ever given Godzilla the hand-to-hand battle that Anguirus had. I mean, Anguirus took Godzilla's heat ray to the face and just laughed it off. I love that scene. He's just taking Godzilla's heat ray and he's like, ha ha, is that it? Come on, give me some. I love that scene. It's great.
How about you, Rich?
I actually love the opening scene where we're on Iwado Island when you first see Godzilla and Anguirus. The music is pretty creepy, and they're just eyeing each other up. And I also love the perspective from that moment. From Kobayashi and the other actor's name I can't remember.
Tsukioka.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I love that moment when they first appear on screen on the island.
How about you, Nick?
Oh gosh, yeah, the battle in Osaka is just amazing, but it's specifically bringing down of the castle. The castle is just that moment when Angui's just going over the top of it and Godzilla is just toppling it with his just his body there, and then does that victory atomic breath there. It's cool, but then afterwards you're kind of sad because it's like he got defeated, but you can't keep a good kaiju down because he came back for more movies. So that was awesome to see.
Let's see. Mine is I love the Anguirus parts whenever he's in the movie, but my favorite scene, and I don't know why. Actually, I think I kind of do, but my favorite scene is when they get the alert that Godzilla shifted courses. Now he's heading towards Osaka, and the military is at the foot of the bay, just trying to spot any type of movement. And you see Godzilla slowly coming in, like you just see his head just bobbing in and out of the water with that creepy Japanese score. For some reason, it's like I just love that scene, the setup to that scene, the whole Osaka going black, the planes going out into the ocean. It's like people are freaking out because they don't know what's going to happen, but they know it's not going to be good. Just that preparation of Godzilla coming ashore is my all-time favorite scene in that movie. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the fight scenes are great, but it's just the anticipation that something terrible is going to happen, which is why that is my favorite scene.
I was going to say something about that, Leslie, if you don't mind me interjecting. That scene with that announcement through the speaker with Mr. George Takai, Mr. Sulu, starting that kind of, attention please. I want to keep saying hello anytime that happens.
Yeah. And again, it's like, you just, and I answered that question once we get to it, but yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I love Godzilla Raids Again. I don't go back to it as often, but I'll explain more later. The second question I want to ask is, while this film gets criticized for whatever reason, what is the one thing that you appreciate about the film, or what you think the film did right? Jessica, go.
So I kind of subscribe to a fan theory about this movie that, as Rich referred to, the opening scene, supposedly there's a fan theory going around that both of the monsters in that movie are female. I believe Toho has already confirmed that Godzilla is officially a female in that film, so that both kaiju were on that island to nest. So, of course, two different species, they're going to fight over the preferred nesting spot, and the two eggs that they laid grow up to be the Godzilla and Anguirus from Destroy All Monsters. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but that's a fantastic backstory. I don't remember, where I heard it from or whatever, but it's just been something that's always been on my mind for the years. So I love watching that movie, thinking specifically of that scenario, and just realizing it's two animals trying to protect their baby, and if you watch it from that aspect, it makes it so much better of an experience watching it.
Rich, what about you?
So, what do I appreciate? I mean, honestly, it was the first kaiju film where we had two monsters fighting each other, of course, being Godzilla and Anguirus. Yeah, I mean, that's all I wrote. But that's hard to come. That's a hard question to answer coming after Jess's response. That was really, really. I love the idea of that, but yeah, it was the first kaiju whooping between two monsters. That's what I appreciate. You know, it kind of set the stage for, I think, you know, for what was to come. Gave Toho an opportunity to, all right, how can we do this? You know, with two suit actors, twice the destruction and whatnot, and learning how to film, you know, kaiju fights. Clearly, if we, you know, you remember from the movie, the kaiju action was not slowed down. So we were watching some of it happen in like real time. So it did look a little wonky at some points. And then later on in pretty much almost every other film, the movement is slowed down. The film slowed down. So I that's one thing I do appreciate from the production part of the film, is that it gave Toho and the production, you know, means to learn on what to do to make these movies come to life.
All right. Nick, what about you, bud?
Oh, there's so much about this. That's, you know, if you hadn't seen the commentaries, of course, it's great. But, you know, to just watch it and to enjoy it the way that it, you know, is presented, to see suit actors figuring out tokusatsu battling for the first time here, you know, and Anguirus was the first to fight Godzilla. You know, it was before King Kong, before Mothra. So, you know, he's always had, you know, that special place in our hearts for being the first one to duke it out with the big G. And so, but yeah, these suit actors trying to figure out how to do that without damaging the suits, without killing themselves, because they threw themselves into the water at that point inside the suits. And, you know, as it was mentioned in the commentary, they could have thrown the suits into the sea and they would have just floated because they're just, you know, hollow. They had to be in the suits. And then there's the stunt people and the crew jumping in and making sure they didn't drown out there. And so, you know, Mr. Nakajima, and I'm trying to remember the other suit actor, Jessica probably rattle it right off. I'm sure the other suit actor was
Katsumi Tezuka.
Oh, it's Tezuka. Okay, yeah. Who was also Godzilla in other shots, you know, in certain shots of 54, I know. So it was, in a sense, kind of Godzilla versus Godzilla, suit actors anyways. But, you know, to see that kind of duking it out. And there's also when they're battling in Osaka, when they're kind of intimidating each other. They didn't just constantly go after each other. Every once in a while, they're backing off and they're, you know, got their mouths wide open and they're just, you know, have this intimidation sort of thing, kind of like lions and bears backing off and just, you know, growling. And it's like, you know, you want some of this? You want to come after me? And then, of course, getting right in each other's faces and just, you know, violently going to town on each other while they're destroying the city at the same time. But so much awesomeness about that. And yeah, I love what Jessica said about the theories. Canon, if there was canon to these Godzilla films, you know, we as Godzilla fans have kind of been like, well, we can kind of throw canon out the door. It's not Star Wars. It's not Star Trek or whatever. So we've kind of been living without canon. But every once in a while, it's kind of nice to maybe have that. See some recurring characters. See some recurring storylines that connect the dots. And if this was the Godzilla that lived through, you know, the Showa era, and then we get, you know, a offsprings of Anguirus and Godzilla, you know, that's kind of awesome to think about. It just makes it more, you know, something more we appreciate. And I had heard that female Godzilla idea from that, what was that old book, that Monsters book, the Ian Thorne Crestwood book, which also had a lot of other misinformation too in it. But
you ain't lying.
I remember Gigantus or Godzilla and Raids Again being a female, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, you know, whatever. I was like, that that probably explains a lot. There's an egg on, there's an egg on an island, Minya, that comes out later. So whatever. But there's a lot about this film that, with the fact that took 6 months from conversation to conception. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, I could talk a lot about this, but yeah, take it back, Leslie.
Before I answer my question, I want to give a huge shout out to Jedi Granville. He just started his YouTube channel where he has had a YouTube channel for a while, but he's started to do podcasts similar to what we're doing here. So I want to give a huge shout out to him and give a plug to his YouTube channel, Jedi Granville. He's got Jedi Granville Productions, and in fact, he just did a podcast involving Godzilla Raids Again. So please check it out. After you're done listening to us, but please check out Jedi Granville on his YouTube channel and give it a listen, because that dude's a good dude. So now what I feel this film did right, and again, I understand that this film gets overlooked because it's coming off the heels of the awesome 54. It's been followed by quite arguably the most popular Godzilla film in the franchise, King Kong vs. Godzilla. I always felt that Godzilla Raids Again was kind of like that little house that's sandwiched between two giant skyscrapers. He's like, okay, I'm a film too. Hey, don't forget about me. Because there's so much to love here. You know what I'm saying? Anguirus debut, the fact we get a kaiju versus kaiju formula that we will see replicated throughout the Godzilla series, the Gamera series, the Ultraman series, same for that. But as I've gotten older, I start to enjoy the human stories from these older films, or at least Godzilla films in general. And I feel like this film does a great job of really trying to separate itself from the 54, because it's kind of hard to top what 54 did. So instead of having a story told from the perspective like 54, like from the perspective of government officials, military personnel, reporters, journalists, scientists, really the human protagonists in this story are everyday working people like you and me. It's like it tells the story. How would a kaiju attack affect the everyday person? You know what I'm saying? How would a kaiju attack, if two monsters descended upon your town, how would it affect your way of life? You know what I'm saying? And I really appreciate Godzilla Raids Again for taking that approach with the story. You know what other film kind of did that? -1. In a way, it did that. So I do feel like, again, this film should be celebrated more. Yes, it was a rush sequel. Yes, they probably could have done something better with some of the special effects shots, whatever. It's not a perfect film by any means. But I do feel like there's a lot more to love with this film than to hate this film. But for some reason, this film gets a lot of hate, or it just does not get the credit it deserves. Also, Anguirus does not get the credit he deserves sometimes. We'll go to that question next. But that's what I appreciate most about Godzilla Raids Again, that it's told from the perspective of everyday people, of how a kaiju attack or something of this magnitude would affect everyday people, and it spurs everyday people to get into the action and to fight their monsters. And I really do appreciate that. And the last question in regards to Godzilla Raids Again is, and Jessica, I know what you're going to say, sweetie. So I know what you're going to say, but But do you feel that Anguirus gets enough credit from the fans for being the first opponent Godzilla ever got that kickstarted the kaiju versus kaiju formula that every giant monster movie and or TV show will follow? You think he gets enough credit for that?
Heck no. Are you kidding me? All right, let's start in 55, or we'll start in 54. Godzilla 1954. That was the first kaiju movie ever made, right? We can all agree on that. The second kaiju movie ever made was Godzilla Raids Again. So Anguirus was the second kaiju ever created. And the Mothra was what, number 4?
Rodan, Varan. So 5, if we're not counting Megara.
So she's the queen of the monsters. And again, if you believe what I believe, that Anguirus from 55 is a female, that's the queen of the monsters. So
heard it there.
I mean, it's true. It's literally the second kaiju ever created. Toho, I feel, has completely dropped the ball. Like, you're using Godzilla to the extent of, the best of his ability, and you're just wasting this character by the wayside. It's like, like you guys all said, Godzilla and Anguirus set up the kaiju versus kaiju that Gamera follows, Ultraman, Godzilla, everything, even to Power Rangers and so on. So yeah, I really don't believe that he gets the credit he deserves. I would have loved to see him in the Heisei series, the Millennium series, even more than what he was, and even to the Legendary series.
Mhm.
So, what about you, Rich?
So no, I don't think he gets the credit either. Maybe because of his first appearance in the, clearly in Godzilla Raids Again. But for me personally, I feel like he earned that when he came back in the late show films. Destroy All Monsters, Godzilla vs. Gigan, and Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Short appearance in Godzilla vs. Megalon. But, he proved that, hey, he's down to scrap with Godzilla and kick some ass on who he's fighting. In the early show films, that was Rodan. So to see Anguirus come back, beat his tag team partner, because if that was a question on a show or some point, Leslie, I don't remember if we talked. We probably have at one point or another. Rodan was the first tag team partner for Godzilla, and then late show films, it became Anguirus. At that point, I feel like that's where Anguirus got his street cred, so to speak. And
I can see that.
Yeah, so it just does it stink, that we haven't seen him. Well, technically he has some exposure in the last 15 years or so with Final Wars and the anime. So and that possible, Jess, you probably know more for sure, but was his skeleton there in Godzilla King of the Monsters? It looked like,
Yeah,
so that little bit of attention, I think that's earned credibility. So that's my take on it.
How about you, Nick?
Okay, yeah, he's definitely underappreciated. Jessica and I, we were talking about how before the show started, you root for the underdog sometime. My underdog is still Varan, but Angulus, he's not getting enough credit. The short answer is definitely no for that. But I would say amongst Showa fans, hardcore Showa fans, of course, we appreciate Angulus. We definitely have collected on him. We know the roar, we know his character, we know how he became from foe to friend for Godzilla, and he's got such character in him, and can be very expressive in how he fights and how he teams up with Godzilla, and was awesome to see him come back in Godzilla vs. Gigan, especially for me because of the team up with Godzilla. Destroy All Monsters, obviously great too, but I just loved it in Godzilla vs. Gigan, which is again first appearance for me, because that's one of the first versus Godzilla films I'd ever seen. So, and he's and even how he's depicted there, he can be depicted in many different kind of color schemes, there in that brown, and then of course in the black and white, he works good in monochrome. And of course in Singular Point, he gets a different look. In Final Wars, he got a different look. So he's got this diverse amount of looks that Toho has at least given him some throughout the years, some evolution of the character, but not enough exposure, not enough credit for being in the legendary Godzilla Raids Again or Gigantic Fire Monster, whatever. It's Godzilla Raids Again. So that is that he is so underappreciated in that sort of way, but he does have a little bit more than my boy Varan though. So take it away, Leslie.
Short answer, I don't believe he does get the credit he deserves. I missed this while we're doing our prep. I think a lot of fans lump Anguirus as being Godzilla's sidekick or lackey, and they look at him as like that lovable, cute dog type of monster, whatever, which is fine. But he was the first opponent that Godzilla ever fought. And I'm gonna bring up a comment that Robert D brought up. He said he definitely does not get enough credit, but it's primarily the fault of the movie, as it doesn't allow Anguirus to leave much of an impression. We have to wait until 1968 for that. I understand what he's saying, but in my opinion, I think Anguirus leaves a hell of an impression in Godzilla Raids Again. Honestly, that fight, and I've seen a lot of people say, Godzilla had that fight won from the beginning. When you watch the fight, that fight really could have gone either way. Like, there were times where Anguirus got the better of Godzilla. I mean, I know Godzilla, everybody loves him, and they don't want to be critical of him, but there were times where Anguirus did get the better of Godzilla. The fight wasn't one-sided. Now, we ain't talking about 1974. We're talking about 1955. And when you watch that fight, they gave each other everything. Like what Jess said earlier. Godzilla blew fire in his face, and Anguirus just shook it off like it wasn't nothing. And he still kept coming. He didn't back down. He didn't retreat. He was like, one of us is going down.
That's a characteristic that he carries, that I'll mention later. But yes.
Yes. So, and in my opinion, the fight was great because again, it could have gone either way. It really could have, in my opinion. And I hate it, and I don't want to piss anybody off when I say this. I think in a lot of ways, Godzilla got lucky at the end. He saw an opening, he took it. Good for him. But really, that fight was really about who was going to outlast the other one. And there is such a thing as looking strong in defeat. Just because Anguirus lost does not make him a loser. There is a difference. So
he went down fighting.
Right, he went down fighting, and he had a great showing for him. Yeah, and he had a great showing for himself. And again, he brought the fight to Godzilla, and that's one thing that I really do enjoy. I think Jess mentioned that during our prep. Like, I love monsters that actually are not afraid of Godzilla, that bring the fight to him, like Anguirus, like Rodan in the 60s. Like, I enjoy that. I enjoy seeing monsters that don't back down from Godzilla, and Anguirus was the first to do that. But in that respect, he does not get enough credit he deserves for being the first monster that really almost took Godzilla to the limit. So he deserves a lot more credit to being just Godzilla's lackey or sidekick, in my opinion. But with that being said, we're going to shift away from Godzilla Raids Again. I think I speak for everybody here when we say that, it may not be the best Godzilla movie, you know what I'm saying? It may not be something that we want to see in your top 10, but we all do advocate that you at least rewatch Godzilla Raids Again, get a newfound appreciation for it. And again, it's not perfect, but there's a lot more to love with that film there is to hate.
Are we going to do that right now? We're going to do that right now? All right, bye.
Please come back. But you know what? Again, we're going to shift away from Godzilla Raids Again, and now we're going to shift over to the rest of Anguirus' appearances throughout the Showa series and Millennium and current era that we're going through right now. Of course, we saw him in 1968's Destroy All Monsters with a brand new look, probably his most iconic and most beloved look. Saw him again in Godzilla's Guy again, temporarily, and Godzilla's Megalon. Of course, the final appearance in 1974's Godzilla's Mechagodzilla. We didn't see him at all in the Heisei series, boo Toho. And we saw him come back for the final film in the Millennium era, Godzilla Final Wars. He does make a cameo in Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019. And of course, he's a part of Singular Point. And also, does he have a cameo in the anime trilogy? Isn't there something about that I read? Jessica, isn't he
in the anime, like the Netflix anime?
Singular Point.
No, I thought I read that his corpse or something was part of Godzilla Planet of the Monsters. I thought I read that online.
That I will have to look into.
How do you you don't know it? Kick her out. Kick her out. How do you not know that?
If she's anything like me, Planet of the Monsters, Monster Planet and Planet Eater, whatever, was the best sleep I ever got.
Yeah. Those movies
very nice.
Maybe twice each, so I honestly don't even remember what took place in those movies. I'm not a very big fan of those.
Yeah, me either. But again, as I was doing some research on Anguirus for this show, I did come across that where they talked about him in Singular Point. They talked about his slight appearance in Kingdom Monsters 2019, and they mentioned that I think Gorosaurus's corpse was either referenced or seen in the first Planet trilogy, anime trilogy movie. I'm not really sure because I didn't see those movies either. You know what? I did see like the first one for like 15 minutes, and I felt depressed, and I didn't finish the rest of it. So,
well, I will do my homework, and I'll let you know.
All right, but you know what? Let's celebrate Anguirus, shall we? Let's celebrate Anguirus, and we go out and we're going with the rest of his appearance after Godzilla Raids Again, and I have a few questions here involving that. Then after that, we're going to show our favorite, myself, Richard, sorry, Rich,
Oh,
and
good.
Nick are going to showcase our top 4 favorite Anguirus or Godzilla Raids Again collectibles. Then we're going to do a giveaway. I'm going to have Jess talk about that momentarily. And then after that, we're going to give Jessica the floor, and she's going to showcase her top 10 favorite Anguirus collectibles in her collection, because you know she has the biggest Anguirus collection in the world. We all know that. We all love seeing her pictures when she posts them on Facebook, and there's so many spikes. I'm just saying, so many spikes when she posts her collection photographs. But I've always wanted to know, what is her top 10? And she's going to tell us that after we do the giveaway. All right. So this first question I have for all of us, again, Jessica, Rich, and Nick, and everybody in the chat, you're more welcome to let your voice be heard in the comment section too, and answer the questions too. All right. What is your favorite Anguirus design? Jess, go, sweetie.
68. Very easy. I love the Singular Points new take on him. I thought it was incredibly unique. I like the Final Wars suit, probably my second favorite, but 68 is number one for me. What about you, Rich?
68 as well. I'll try to keep this short. I really do like the Final Wars design, but that design is ruined for me by how he's portrayed. So 68 all day. Nick?
68 is awesome. I can't disagree with that. But though I do love seeing Anguirus portrayed in monochromatic black and white with the, I love it when people talk about, yeah, I've seen all the good Godzilla movies. I've seen all the black and white ones. And I'm like, what do you mean, all 2? So, and it's like, yeah, okay. So now maybe they saw them in some theater or on a black and white TV, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of where I am with that. Did I lose connection?
Your video, we hear you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'll figure out what's going on with the video, but yeah, still love the 68, is still top. Seeing him in color, the way he was portrayed, and yeah, it's just awesome seeing him like that. Leslie, take this away while I figure out what's going on here.
Okay, no problem. Rich, you know what? I forgot to add the slideshow for the stuff. I'll tell you what. Let's just click them over. I'm gonna add it to the stage now, and then we'll go from there. All right. Let's see. Here we go. And you start. And you just click whatever, or you can zoom past the Godzilla Raids Again stuff and get to the other stuff. My favorite Anguirus design is, I know technically it's the same suit, but I love his appearance in 72. I love his design from 72, even if it's the same one. But I love how more brownish color he is. He has that brownish color, that dark brownish color in 72. Yeah, that again, it's the same suit from Destroy All Monsters, but I love the coloration of this paint scheme of him better in Gigan. Before I go to the next question, let me do a few more comments. Let's see. We got Eric Stolt. What's going on, Eric?
Hey,
How you doing, sir? Let's see. Of course, we got Brian. I'm sorry. It just slipped out. I have never called that dude Richard.
I was gonna get my blazer on. If we're being, uppity and highbrow, we were gonna get eyebrow. I thought highbrow.
You know what? Rich and I have been friends for God knows how long, and I have never, ever, 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 ever called him that. Even when he was here last month in person, I never called him that. It just slipped out. Let's see. We got Tyler Anderson. Thank you very much for being here. What did he say? I was going to get my tie if I'm going to be called Richard. Let's see. Robert D said, I called shenanigans. No way she can narrow it down. Oh, Jess, he's popping off at you. It's all good. It's all good. He also said,
well.
Robert D said 1968, no contest. See, Godzilla Train 1090 said, granted, I don't love the film Godzilla Raids Again he's talking about. The design is always my favorite. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Michael Sontag, thank you for being here. 55 all day. Rosanna's Fairy Tale Reborn Nursery. Thank you for being here. Bam. Rich, is that your sister?
That's my mom.
Oh.
Kick boot her.
Hey, Mama Eso, how you
Yeah.
doing? I think I saw you briefly when I FaceTime Rich, or when he FaceTime me on Christmas.
Yeah.
How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Please take care.
Thank you.
I'm not going to boot your mom because I don't want that smoke. So, Scott Nelson, thank you so much for being here. All right, let me.
We're going to boot her.
Which is
Telling you.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next question. What is your, again, we talked about our favorite Anguirus design. And Jess, you got to answer this question now. I know you love everything about Anguirus, but it's got to be something that you don't like. What is your least favorite Anguirus design? There's got to be something that you don't particularly care for. Which one is it?
Okay, so 55.
What?
During the 55 shoot, the spike flaps on the suit, they popped up in some of the screen or the pictures or whatever. So I grew up thinking like the carapace could like fold up and like, I don't know, do some kind of attack or whatever. And then it just comes to find out that it was just a mistake on the suit. So that's honestly my biggest pet peeve about anything Anguirus.
Rich, what about you? What is your least favorite design of Anguirus?
Final Wars. You know, I have a love and hate relationship with that version, mainly because of how he's portrayed. I will say, when he first shows up in Shanghai, you know, the filter on the screen, you know, what they use, like it had that like dirty, grimy brown. It looked freaking awesome. Everything was like how he was walking, just slamming his hands down, and just the sound sounded awesome up until he did the roly-poly, and that ruined it for me. So I'm like, it ruined it. It ruined it once he started doing the soccer ball shit, and they started kicking him around like a soccer ball. I'm like, you're just taking me out of the element. Like, you know, you're supposed to. We watch these movies, and in my mind, it's like, you know, an escape, and you're falling into that world. But once they started playing soccer, I'm like, you just took me right out of it. So, yep. Nick?
Yeah, I'm with you, Rich, on this. Final Wars is it. He's definitely like, I don't know. He's got character in everything else he portrays in.
Damn it.
Singular point.
Damn it.
What? Was that what you're going to say?
No, he showed my Anguirus. My Final Wars Anguirus. And y'all hating on it at the same time. Oh man.
No.
But look how badass he looks. He looks badass until he rolls. No rolling.
See, the
roll
didn't bother me.
The roll,
It didn't bother me. I mean,
he's an armadillo. It makes sense.
The part of the playing soccer, yes, that was stupid.
Yeah,
I totally agree. But as far as like him just balling up, like I'm cool with that. It looks awesome. Like it's just another way for him to attack.
Yeah, like if he just didn't bounce around, I could buy into that you know, skill sets per se. But it's once he started like how is he getting 10,000 feet into the air? Like,
yeah, that's
momentum. I get it, but it just if it was done in a realistic or somewhat realistic manner, you know, then I'm all on board with it. But it's just,
yeah, it's pretty awful. I mean, it's just if he had some character to him, but there was no character, and there's no way to flesh out him as a character in Final Wars. But unless it's Godzilla in Final Wars, you're really not fleshing out any of the characters. They're on screen for so little of time. But you know, they were able to pull it off, and most of the other Showa films, obviously, you side with him, and at times you're with, you know, Anguirus here. He is likable, but in that one, I just couldn't see him as a likable kind of character. And yeah, soccer ball kind of stuff. No, it's not for me. Leslie, how do you follow all that up? All the hate.
That's the thing. I have a soft spot for Final Wars Anguirus. Like I've always said, if X Plus makes another monster from that film, it should definitely be Anguirus. They done Godzilla, they done Monster X. How he got chosen before Anguirus, I'll never know. They done Gigan, they done Kaiser Ghidorah. But I want the next monster for them to do is Final Wars Anguirus. Like I do enjoy the design. I love the fact that he can roll into a soccer ball, but I don't like that he's been used as a soccer ball, if that makes sense. Now, when he rolls to a soccer ball and he starts bashing warships out of the sky, that's cool. But when Godzilla is like, when he starts doing that, I'm like, no. But I do have to say, my least favorite Anguirus design is Singular Point. I cannot stand that Anguirus design. It looked like he got allergic to something and the spikes just protruded from everywhere. And plus, I haven't seen the episode, but I do understand he's not treated any better, honestly. But as design, yeah, Singular Point does nothing for me. As a matter of fact, if they make a figure of it, I'm not even going to get it. I just can't stand that design. I don't like it. I mean, I'm glad they gave him the old school Anguirus roar. I like that, but the design, no. I can't do it. All right, next question. What is your favorite movie that has Anguirus in it? Jesse, go. I know, I'm sorry.
Well, this one I always go back and forth with also, but most of the time it's Destroy All Monsters. I feel like he gets a really good representation in Destroy All Monsters. The obvious other answer is Godzilla versus Gigan. I love that him and Godzilla throw the smackdown on King Ghidorah and Gigan, especially when Anguirus stands up and he spikes King Ghidorah. I love that. So yeah, it's got to be Destroy All Monsters though for me. It's one of my favorite Godzilla films that literally has ever been made. So yeah. What about you, Rich?
I'm going with Godzilla versus Gigan. Dude's just a pure badass in that movie. Like we had mentioned earlier, Anguirus basically took a shot to the face from Godzilla in Raids Again. So when Gigan's got his buzzsaw going, Anguirus is staring at it like, I could take that. And he just charges at him like pure badass. And it's like Anguirus knows he's like, I'm really out of my league here, but I'm okay with that. I'm still going to throw spikes. And the fact that Godzilla is like, yo, Godzilla kind of made him like his little bitch throughout the movie because he's like, hey, go check out what's happening over there. Like, I'm finishing up my tea. You go find out and come back and report to me. You know, so Godzilla basically saying like, I'm down to take you with me. You know, you've earned it. But yeah. So Godzilla versus Gigan. And do I believe in Joe Hendry? I mean, RKO, you know, so no, I don't. Next.
Oh gosh, you can't get better than 72 Godzilla vs. Gigan. But I'll go ahead and talk a little about my favorite portion of that of Anguirus in a movie where he wasn't in much, which was Mechagodzilla 74. So I'll talk a little about that just because again it wasn't much, but you know what? He knew that wasn't his boy Godzilla. You know, he knew that this was an imposter. So yeah, there it is. You know, it's like beyond the fact that suit keeps changing from the imposter Godzilla to the real Godzilla suit, but he could see through what Toho was doing. So he was like, yeah, this isn't my boy Godzilla. And, you know, I guess if in any way he stalled for time for, you know, to save the human characters and to get Godzilla in there and, duke it out with Mechagodzilla here. So, Anguirus at least had his moment to shine there. He got beat up, but he was at least able to get away with his life. And yeah, he's someone who takes a beating. And the one thing about, Godzilla versus Gigan, anyways, I love the fights that were shot for Godzilla versus Gigan. And I think, you got to appreciate that they used the stock footage from Destroy All Monsters in that film too. But, as we as Godzilla fans will see, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of stock footage. Seen that shot. Okay. But, at least they picked the really good ones from Destroy All Monsters to use in that one. But yeah, I'll go with Mechagodzilla 74. Leslie.
I'm going to agree with Jess and Rich and a good majority of people in the chat. Godzilla vs. Gigan. Now, I understand that film is problematic. I understand about the stock footage. I understand about them talking. I understand about everything that's bad with that movie. It's a definition of a good, bad movie. But I don't care. I love that film. That film I watch pretty much willy-nilly almost on a weekly basis in this house. I love that movie. And Anguirus, again, I have to be honest. When I first watched this film, it was way back in the day when I was early in my Godzilla fandom. And I saw a few Godzilla films under my belt, a good chunk of them from the 60s. So when I saw this one, at first, I wasn't too impressed with Anguirus being Godzilla's tag team partner. I thought, you picked him. Why couldn't you pick Rodan, knowing you're going up against Gigan and King Ghidorah? But Anguirus proved me wrong by the fact that he just kept coming and coming and coming, and I and that's what made me draw myself to Anguirus. The fact that he was willing to take a beating, and he never stopped. He just kept on going. And again, my favorite part of the fight is when it's kind of like a morbid thing, but when he spots Godzilla getting battered by the tower and he's trying to rush to get to him, and Gigan's being a prick and blocking his every way and slices his face open, I was like, ugh, God. You know what? Let me ask one quick question before I go to the other questions. Which Anguirus moment, and of course, everybody in chat, you're more than welcome to answer the question. Which Anguirus moment hurt you the most on a personal basis? Gigan slicing his face open, or the fake Godzilla breaking his jaw at 74 drawing blood? Which one hurt you the most? Jessica, go.
74. Man, my boy, I felt literally, I was feeling that with him. I was like, damn, man, that is brutal. But he stayed in the fight, and as long as he could, until that last moment when he was like, yeah, I guess I got to go get some help.
Rich, who one hurt you the most?
So neither of those scenes. I will admit that in Mechagodzilla, yeah, like he really got beat up, the blood and everything. But for me, it was in Destroy All Monsters when Ghidorah lands on him and he's crushing him, and you hear that bone crunching sound. I legitimately thought that Ghidorah broke Anguirus' neck and killed him. So I was relieved to see Anguirus get back up and shake it off, and he was good. I'm like, okay, because I was like, man, that was a dark turn there in Destroy All Monsters, but. Yeah.
Well, he took a big fall there also.
Yeah. Dude, he was like going for, a ride, skydiving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nick. But yeah, that Gigan scene, for me is really shocking because it's out of nowhere. It's just that, blood splattering at the camera the way it was. In fact, I've got a review coming up for the 72 Monster Arts Godzilla with the interchangeable face that has the blood on his face, and I'm like, man, these guys got just beat up by these two monsters, and but of course they had Godzilla Tower as well, kind of doing the work on them. But yeah, Anguirus going right in and just hitting the blood on the camera the way it was. I was like, it's just kind of out of nowhere. But yeah, that hurt a lot. But you're right, 74 too, Jessica, with that, kind of an homage to King Kong breaking the neck of breaking the jaw of the T-Rex in 33. There's something about that is just like, how, an animal after something like that is probably just going to go off and die, from an infection or bleeding out or something like that. But, you just hope that these kaiju have this remarkable healing and regenerating process going on. But yeah, that's a gruesome scene.
I agree. I think the 74 scene is more gruesome. And again, like you said, Nick, it is an homage to King Kong, but it's also an homage to Godzilla Raids Again, because Godzilla drew blood on Anguirus too. So you have that going on. Yeah. But that whole scene when he opens the jaw and blood starts shooting out, and then he gives that that altered roar that you know he's effed up and he's scurrying away. Like we never seen Anguirus do that before. Like we never
crying.
Right. We've never seen
Horrible.
a monster do that to Anguirus and to see him. And of course, we all know why they did it. They did it to make Mechagodzilla look strong, which I understand, but at the same time, they're still Anguirus. Like, come on, like, you know, I mean, I love Anguirus that much. I know you feel the same way. Like, you didn't have to do my boy like that. Not like that.
Savage.
You feel me, Jess? Like, not like that.
And you know the thing about that movie, too, with Anguirus' role is Anguirus wakes up basically to call Godzilla. So all he's trying to do is help, you know, and that's what he gets for helping. But also, and Jess mentioned it earlier, he's stalling for time for Godzilla to get there. So he put up a good fight. Yeah, absolutely.
He did. All right, let's go to the next question. We got 3 more, and then we'll go to the collectible picks. Can't wait for that. All right. What is your favorite fight scene involving Anguirus? Jess, go. Again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm rolling through them all in my head, and it's like I love the 55 because nobody's given Godzilla that type of a fight before, and that just shows how strong and the guts it takes. You're standing up to the king, right? Godzilla, nobody barely ever beats Godzilla, right? And Anguirus is like, all right, I got some paralyzing agent stuff in my spikes, but I don't have fire breath. I don't have anything really strong.
Brute force.
Battle Godzilla's heat ray. It's like literally, like Rich just said, brute force. I mean, I love the 55 battle. I love it. I can't say it enough. What about you, Rich?
Mine, again, Godzilla versus Gigan. Considering, again, like you had mentioned, he doesn't have any, you know, superpowers other than his pure strength, agility, and willingness to kick ass. You know, he did it in Godzilla versus Gigan, but originally didn't destroy monsters when he bites Ghidorah's neck and he goes for a ride up into the sky. You know, no F's given. He's like, we're fighting. Charging at Gigan when his chainsaw blade's going. He's like, let's go. Doing his jump attack, you know, his spike attack where he's jumping. That was pretty cool. That was fun, honestly. But yeah, Godzilla versus Gigan. Absolutely. Nick?
I'm going with the guy again, but specifically what you said there, Rich, was the spike attack. When my brother and I were watching this as little kids on VHS, was the, you know, we made reference to, if you guys remember the G.I. Joe movie in the 80s with Sergeant Slaughter and, you know, the Nemesis Enforcer, when he is just beating the tar out of that guy. And he's like, this is for Falcon. This is for Duke. This is for the US of A. And I'm like, that is Godzilla calling Anguirus. Do it again. Do it again. This is for me. This is for Anguirus. This is for the, you know, Tokyo and the humanity. They just constantly smacking up, you know, and going. And then, of course, Godzilla, you know, starts lunging Ghidorah over the top of his head at that point. That's when, yeah, the tables have turned and, you know, they're starting to, you know, retake the battle in their favor. And that's just an awesome, you know, choreographed battle there, you know, in children's land and everything's falling apart. But yeah, that is definitely one of my favorite scenes of involving Anguirus there. Leslie?
I agree. Godzilla vs. Gigan. I love that fight. As a matter of fact, I think that fight is the best fight in the entirety of the Godzilla franchise. I know there'll be some debates made for 62, Terra Mecha Godzilla, Godzilla vs. Destroyer, the final battle, destroy all monsters. I get all that, but for me and my money, this is, I don't care that the fight with stock footage. I don't care. I'm into it from beginning to end. I think that's the best fight scene ever in the Godzilla franchise. Next question. Is there a movie or scenario that you wished Anguirus had been a part of? Go ahead, Jess.
So the obvious answer for all of us is GMK. I loved what they did with that design. I wish they went the original route of Baragon, Anguirus, and Varan versus Godzilla. But of course they caved and put the most popular monsters back in it, and we got what we got. As far as something that I wish he was in, I'm dying to see him in the Monsterverse.
Yes.
I originally didn't really care for the Monsterverse when I first saw 2014. But the Monsterverse has really started growing on me, and I'm hoping it continues like Marvel is. Like, I love what they're doing. I love the new kaiju they're introducing, but I also want to see them introduce more of the originals. I don't think they're paying enough homage to where Godzilla came and all the other kaiju that got him to this point. So I definitely want to see him in the new Legendary series. And there's also rumors going around that he's going to be in the -1 sequel. If that's true, oh my God, I am dying to see the design where it matches the -1, the new -1 design. Like, fantastic. I can't wait to see what happens.
Yep. So everything Jess just said, GMK, absolutely. I would have loved, and Robert, you just said it too. The original idea that Kaneko had was Anguirus, Varan, Baragon. Toho wanted the more popular kaiju, clearly, as Ghidorah, Mothra. But outside of that, I always thought about this after clearly the fact that the Heisei films were over. Bringing Rodan back in '93 was awesome, so I always felt like seeing Anguirus in a Heisei film would have been really, really cool. Just in the way those movies were being made. Clearly Godzilla was slower, bulkier, bigger, badder, more, just a force of nature. Pretty much what Anguirus' original concept from '55. So I felt like that would have been cool to see him brought into the mix. Clearly, again, every other monster that Godzilla was fighting had beams and they could fly. Literally, almost every... Who didn't fly? Biollante didn't fly. Everybody else flew, right? In the Heisei films? Space Godzilla, Destroyer, Mecha Godzilla, Rodan, Batra, Mothra, Ghidorah, Mecha Ghidorah. Everybody flew, So either Godzilla fighting Anguirus or Anguirus helping Godzilla in the Heisei films, kind of like how Rodan did in '93. I always thought it would have been cool because I think it would have worked. So that's my thoughts. Nick?
Yeah, I actually would love to have seen Anguirus get the chance to go back head-to-head with Mechagodzilla, even if it weren't the aliens controlling Mechagodzilla, if it was the Japanese, their version of Mechagodzilla in either Godzilla against Mechagodzilla or Tokyo SOS, having, especially Tokyo SOS, you got Mothra added to the mix there, so may as well go ahead and bring Anguirus back in and then, get a little rematch. I know it wasn't the same Mechagodzilla, but seeing Anguirus, smashing his spikes up against Mechagodzilla with sparks flying and, just giving him a heck of a time like that, that would have been an awesome scene to see. There's so much that he can do with his fighting ability. And, the fact that he's a crawling monster, you might think you've got the upper hand on him, but, he's got the spikes. He's clever. He's cunning. He's got the long tail. There's a lot that he can offer to a battle against a, upright kaiju. And so I'd love to have seen that. That would have been awesome to see. Leslie?
And again, I know y'all been saying GMK, and I love GMK. I love that movie. And I would say that, but considering that if that movie would end up being what their final product was, Godzilla would have went through Anguirus like it wasn't nothing. And Anguirus does not deserve that. So that's why I'm not really going to go with GMK with my answer. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna go with what Jess said. I want to see Anguirus come back in the -1 sequel. Again, I would love to see him do a Hedra one. I know he expressed interest in a Hedra movie, but I would love to see what Yamazaki can do with Anguirus. Like, they make Godzilla scary in -1, at least the older Island one. So I want to see what Yamazaki can do with a reinterpretation of Anguirus. Make him scary, because again, I think a lot of times Anguirus gets lumped in as the happy-go-lucky sidekick, but he was vicious in 55. He was feral. He was animalistic. He was violent. He was wicked. You know, I want to see them go back to that and turn up a notch and give him the same treatment that the older Island Godzilla got in -1. I want to see that. I want to see Yamazaki bring back Anguirus, but bring it back in a more violent, darker, vicious way. And I think he deserves it. I mean, no cameos, no speculation, no nothing. I want to see Anguirus come back, because he's about due for a comeback. If anybody's due for a comeback, it is Anguirus. All right, the next question. Hold on a second. Here we go. Okay. And it's the last question before we go into the collectibles. What is your all-time favorite moment involving Anguirus? What is that one specific moment that makes you mark out to this day? Just go. Again, I'm so sorry.
This has honestly been one of the harder questions for me to answer. I was thinking about it last night. I've been thinking about it this morning. And it's I love the end of 72 when Anguirus and Godzilla, the fight's done. They know they've done an amazing job, and then literally walking off into the sunset. And
which I have that in the slide.
Yeah, they're looking up and down at each other, you know, kind of communicating like, "Yo, great job, you know, we did this. We just took 8 monsters and destroy all monsters to do. We just did that and took care of King Ghidorah." You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just a beautiful ending to that movie, and yeah, I love it. What about you, Rich?
I don't know where that slide went. Sorry.
It's all good.
All right, so you said favorite moment, right?
Yeah, all-time favorite moment.
Okay, so again, going right back to Godzilla versus Guy again.
Yep.
Guy again's got his chainsaw going, and Anguirus is staring at him. And, like, what's going through his mind before he charges right into him? It's like, he's like, I have to stop him. Like, I can't just stand here and let him come kill me. I have to charge at him, hope I get one of my crown horns wedged in between his spikes and stop him. You know, maybe snap a gear or something that's happening there. And he just has no F's given mindset and just, I'm going for it. The longer I stand here and hesitate, I could get my neck cut, you know, and be done. Boom. So he just like, F it. I'm going for it. Let's go. He's like, send it. He goes full send. Yeah. So that's my favorite moment. Anguirus. Good job, Angie. Boom. Nick.
Yeah, those are all great moments. I got to say, the first time I really was able to kind of observe Anguirus was, of course, the first Versus movie I saw, Godzilla vs. Guy again. But that scene where he comes ashore and the maser tanks are just blasting away at him. You know, you hear him kind of crying and things, and you know, they're just being deterrents. You know, their weapons against any of these kaiju are still, you know, is just like, you know, throwing matchsticks at him. I mean, he's just there to kind of check things out and see what's going on, and then he, you know, heads off into the sea. But, you know, that was actually a pretty cool moment, actually, and you get some really good close-ups in that scene. I really love seeing, you know, when they light him up there, and you're seeing all the detail, all the damage that suit has taken over the years and such. But yeah, it's you know, it's a pretty cool moment, actually, and You know, he gets that moment in the spotlight, literally, and then you get to hear his roar without music in the background too, and echoing, you know, along the beach. I thought that was actually a pretty cool moment. It's just a little bit like, you know, right before the battle, that calm before the storm, and then they just start blasting away at him with stock footage in some cases, but still, you know, cool stock footage. And then, yeah, on the beach, and then you get to see all the maser tank, you know, zaps, of course, going on, you know, things that are flying at him. And I always love seeing, you know, some of those missiles, the rockets that, you know, hit him in the back and then, you know, pating, you know, go way up in the air. That those little moments like that is just so cool to see. But yeah, that's one of my most memorable and favorite scenes involving Anguirus. You know, that's not necessarily a battle. It's not necessarily a fight scene. It's not a kaiju fight scene, but him against the humans. I thought that worked pretty well. Leslie.
You know what? I was gonna choose the back attack from 72. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go with a different moment. I actually saw Godzilla Raids Again last night in preparation for this stream. And I don't know why, but I was in the house by myself because my wife wasn't home. And there's a certain moment that happened. And when it happened, I literally jumped up off the couch. I was like, yeah. And it's the moment where Anguirus finally comes to shore in Osaka. And it dawns on you. It's like, because again, the whole idea of the old Osaka scene was like they were dropping flares to lure Godzilla away from the city, which worked at first. But at the same time, they forgot there's another monster out there, and it actually drew Anguirus in at the same time Godzilla is drawn back in. So actually, their plan to save themselves actually made it a whole lot worse for them. It's like, can you imagine one of those people in Osaka seeing Godzilla come back, but then you see Anguirus show up because that so-called savior plan, and it's like, damn, oh God, come on now, like, and it's like that moment, yeah, and Anguirus comes to shore and it's like, I'm here, and he spots Godzilla and it's like, you, and Godzilla's like, you, and they
who invited you here?
Oh God, that moment is like before they even touch, they're just roaring and gritting their teeth at each other. And again, when I saw that, I was like, I literally just jumped off the couch. I was like, yeah. So that's my all-time favorite Anguirus moment when he comes to show in Osaka, he brings the fight to Godzilla. I love that. So, so that's gonna do it for the this portion of the Anguirus discussion. You know, we'll do our final thoughts of Anguirus before we get up out of here. But now we're moving towards the collectible portion. Now, Rich and Nick and I are going to showcase our 4 favorite Anguirus collectibles. May not be our top 4 favorites, but our favorites nonetheless. Then after that, we're going to do a giveaway. Jessica has some great things that she wants to give away, courtesy of herself and Japan's Legends. And then after that, we're going to give her the floor, and she's going to name her top 10 favorite Anguirus collectibles she has in her awesome Anguirus collection. Now, before we go into our top 4, Rich, myself, and Nick, Jess, I'm going to give you the floor so you can talk about what is it that you're going to be giving away courtesy of yourself and Japan Legends. Go for it, sweetie.
So, as many of you guys know, we represented Ogura-san, who was the 2004 Anguirus suit actor from Final Wars. So we have a signed Anguirus autograph. And at the convention, he was also making these by hand. They're little leather Anguirus with metal spikes, and you can use it as like a phone charm or a keychain, whatever.
Awesome.
It is. This is just a little pencil top eraser.
Cool.
And then a mini Marmon 68. So, Leslie, you've got the questions.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna ask Yeah, I'll do it now. Let's go and do it now before we get to our collectible picks. Okay. And the first person who answers this question, because I don't have access to the giveaway tool thing we do on cam, so we're going to do this the old-fashioned way. I'm going to ask a trivia question, and whoever pipes in with the first correct answer in the chat wins the giveaway. All right? Good luck to y'all. All right? So, again, she mentioned that photograph right there was from the suit actor who portrayed Anguirus in Godzilla Final Wars. His name is Toshihiro Ogura. All right, awesome guy. But he also played another monster in Final Wars. Now, he actually played 2 monsters, but if you can name one of those monsters first, then you will win the giveaway. Outside of Anguirus, what was Anguirus' other portrayal of another monster in Final Wars? Again, you can do 1 or 2 answers. And the first person who answers that question wins the giveaway. All right. So while they're cooking that up in the comment section, please let it be known in the comment section, and then we'll shout you out once we get to get an answer, and then we'll go from there. Let's see. Hold on. Monster X. Sorry, Darth Lord. Nope. Sorry, that's incorrect. Good choice though. Tim Bartos, Hedra. No, sir. Sorry.
Nope. Robert has an answer. He's like the Jeopardy master.
Godzilla Train 1090. He got it. Kazakador. You win the giveaway. Woo! Adrian.
Oh, Adrian.
Yes, he did. He betrayed, because again, I think it took 2 actors to play Kazakador. Yeah. I think he was the front half. The back half? Okay, yeah.
The ass.
And he also played Ebera. He also played Ebera in Final Wars. But yeah, we'll take Kazakador and
awesome.
Yep. Adrian was the first person. So Adrian, get with Jessica on Facebook so she can get your information, and she'll send it out to you real soon. Okay. Congratulations. All right, Jessica. We're gonna go with our collectible picks, and hopefully we'll impress you, because you know that you have everything. All right, so let me do the screen like this, and okay, I'll go last. So Rich, you can go first and go with your 4 collectibles.
Okay, Leslie, because I hate lists. I can't. So these are not in any particular order. So of my top 4 will be the Bandai Movie Monster Series 2001 version of this Anguirus figure. As we mentioned earlier, like the paint job for the 72 version, I just love it, and I feel like that's what Bandai did here on this figure. This is by far the best paint job figure for Anguirus that Bandai has done. So that's up there. Well, wait, what did I write? Oh, the original 8-inch. Where is it? That's got to be up here, for collectible purposes, because this was the first Bandai Anguirus. And then, wait, what did I write? Because my brain's changed. Right here. The Bandai, I'm bringing both of them up because they're the same sculpt, different paint jobs, but the Movie Monster Series 55 versions. These figures are awesome. This one looked great because it was a replica basically of the Toys Dream Project set that came out in 2007, I think it was. That's what this really should have been. So I had since sold it, and I'm glad I have these now, because it's like having the box set again, but with the right figures. This one, clearly, this is still part of the top 4. This is like a mini X Plus figure. This thing is like out of the park. Freaking 10 out of 10. Bandai killed it. Amazing sculpt. Beautiful. And then I don't have it with me right now, but it's back there on the shelf. The X Plus 30 centimeter Anguirus 68. Phenomenal figure. Boom. Nick?
All right. Let's see if I can't switch cameras here. Okay, if you're able to see that, we've got a big poster here. I bought courtesy of Mike Ross out there. He collects these posters, and he sold this one to me. I think it's called the B4 series size poster. And yeah, it is the Japanese print of that poster. So then what I love about this poster especially is because Anguirus is in there and Ghidra's in there. And there's, the VHS box art, you remember, did not have all the characters in it. Didn't even have Godzilla Tower or anything much except for just Godzilla Gigan, which was a cool, artwork, but they even got the, accuracy wrong with the 2 ladies from Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 74 in the bottom of it. And so I was like, this is the piece of art that I love. So this is the one that I always kind of keep going back to. And let me see if I can't bring in here just a little table. Okay. We also have the Mezco Destroy All Monsters, Anguirus. Just a little guy there.
Cool.
And the set for that Destroy All Monsters was pretty cool because they gave you a lot of interchangeable heads to give you the open mouth and the closed mouth version of that. This isn't Anguirus, but it is the Godzilla Raids Again Godzilla X plus 30 centimeter. And got this quite a long time ago. It's probably my second X plus I ever purchased. The first being the 68 Godzilla, who fought Anguirus. And then Rich just mentioned this is the X plus 30 centimeter Anguirus. There he is, Angie boy.
All right.
And just because this is,
Yeah.
the VHS tape,
Love
I'm a guy, physical media guy, right? Rich just had a show on physical media.
Yep.
Yeah. So physical media for the win. I remember buying this. Do you guys remember Music Land and Sam Goody?
I remember
Yeah.
Sam Goody.
Yeah. Yeah. Similar companies. I don't know. One probably purchased the other, but yeah, I love that artwork right there in the front. Yeah.
Me too.
I fell in love with that artwork as a kid.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Me too.
Physical media for the win. It's VHS, but it was awesome to see that, in the stores like that. And then, being able to pick it up and saying Godzilla Raids Again, which was the beginning of the confusion for me as a kid, because again, it's Godzilla on the title and then it flies at you, Gigantus, the fire monster.
Yes.
And oh my gosh, so much to say about that.
I not to derail, sorry. I don't think I've ever seen the VHS version. I don't even remember the first time I saw Godzilla Raids Again. It must have been a DVD of some sorts. I just don't remember. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting what we did earlier this morning on Kaiju and Coffee, where it was mentioned that the title is Godzilla Raids Again, but you see Gigantus popping up in the film. So interesting.
Yeah, they fixed that in the classic media, of course, DVD sets and others that are out there. But yeah, this one does still have Gigantus, the fire monster, flying at you at the beginning. So other than that, it is pretty much exactly the same. But yeah, there was just so much about this. But I do love, seeing it in VHS, just every once in a while, popping in old media and, checking out, seeing what kind of differences there are, the grit, the grain, all of that. I'm also a big fan of laser discs too. So I've got a bunch of the laser disc copies of Godzilla films and the non-Godzilla kaiju films too. But yeah, got some collectibles there. And Leslie, take it from there. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Jessica brings us too.
Oh yeah.
Me too.
Bring the heat.
All right, for me, these four. Okay. Oh, come on out. Okay. Of course, I gotta get some love to Godzilla. Of course, the KOC 40 centimeter 1955 Godzilla, painted by the awesome David Dopko. Again, I think this is the best 55 that's out there. Like, nothing can touch this thing. And again, that's something you don't hear often. The best 55, kind of that design. It's not the most beloved design, but I do enjoy it. I think it was perfect for Godzilla Raids Again, for the story that was told around it. And in some ways, I do find it more prehistoric looking than the 54. Like, I think it captures the more of the prehistoric essence with this suit than the 54, in my opinion. And by no means do I feel this is the worst Godzilla design in the franchise. It's in the bottom half. I will agree with that. But
he's a mutation. He mutates. He's ugly, beautiful.
Yeah, but you know what? It is funny to think about. Actually, when you think about it, and of course, just talk about the fan theory, whatever. But again, we did see him buried at the end, and we see him pop out of the iceberg in King Kong versus Godzilla. So technically, this Godzilla would go on to become the Showa era Godzilla that we know and love: the 62, the 64, the 65, all of that.
67.
So before you hate on the 55, just remember the ones you love from the Showa period started with this guy right here. I'm just saying.
Yep.
All right. So, okay. One more. Let's see. Two more. No, three more. Excuse me. Okay. The 25 centimeter 1968 Godzilla, Anguirus. I had the 32, but I think between the 25 is better. I mean, we could debate that some other time, but I was looking at both this week in preparation for this show, and I just like this one better, with all due respect to the 30, and that was a great figure too. but I just like this one better. Maybe again because of the more of the brown colors that he sports, and I love the more he has a more ferocious face because his mouth is open, whereas the 30 is closed. But you know, between the two, I prefer this one over the 30. So that's number 2. Let's see. Again, I'm sorry, Rich and Nick and everybody who hates Final Wars, but
I love the design. I don't like how he was portrayed.
I got to include this because again, there's not too many
Good.
collectibles of this guy out here. But the 30 centimeter Galloping Ghost Kaiju Kobo
Yeah.
Final Wars
that.
Anguirus, like I
Fresh.
love it.
Yep.
I love this thing. You know, thanks again to Doc Mac and Marcellus Winters. Didn't you get this kit, Jess?
I got mine right there. I'm just waiting to have somebody.
Marcellus. Send to Marcellus. Or send to Greg. Send to Greg. As a matter of fact, let me do some talking between them two, and I'll hook you up. I'll hook you up. All you gotta do is send it, and then they'll handle the rest. But I'll talk with you on Facebook about that.
It's that I gotta get taken care of. So
yeah, and you know what? They'll work with you in terms of the fee or whatever. I'll talk with them. But between Greg and Marcellus, we'll get you this up and running. Because once they do, this thing is absolutely great. Yeah, and it's sizable. He's at least 20 inches long because of the long tail. So be careful with this guy. And number 1, my favorite Anguirus piece is another resin model kit that Marcellus Winters built and painted for me. It's from Monster Maker 28. It is another Anguirus, 30 centimeter. It's actually of the 72. Again, Monster Maker 28 made 2 Anguiruses. 168, which is the one that Rich and Nick showed, and this is the 72. It's still somewhat similar to the 68, but it's somewhat modified because his paw is up right here, you know. His mouth is somewhat open, not closed, and he's looking down. So there is not a big of a difference, but a big enough where you can distinguish between this one and the 68, you know. And again, my favorite Anguirus is 72 from Gigan, and I had Marcellus painted this up just like the Anguirus from Gigan. So my all-time favorite Anguirus piece is this one. Unless I get my hands on a certain giant one, but I think, you know, we're going to see one momentarily. But that is it with our collectible picks. So now we got the Queen Anguirus up on the stage, ladies and gentlemen. I know y'all been wanting to see this for a long time. Y'all been dying to know what are Jessica Etchells, the biggest Anguirus fan and collector in the world. What is her top 10 favorite Anguirus pieces? And again, she has much everything. Realistic, Safuvi, big, small. It doesn't matter. If it's Anguirus, she got it. So, Jess, you're going to get the floor, sweetie, and let us know what are your top 10 favorite Anguirus pieces you have in your collection. Go!
Thank you. And first of all, you guys have some great pieces. We do have one in common. And
see that? He got you. Greg got you. He got you.
I do have to give an honorable shout out to Greg because Greg is the one that painted this amazing for me, and I know how great his work is. So, all right. So we're gonna start clearly at number 10. This was my very first realistic version of Anguirus, and it's like the Gashapon, or I can't think of the set off the top of my head that it comes from, but I mean it's such a great little figure, super detailed. Can't say enough about this thing. It's just beautifully well done. Number 9, we're going to go with my very first Anguirus figure, which was the Trendmasters.
Oh, yeah.
I got this one this is, again, my very first one. I've had this since the 90s. Still in amazing condition. This one came in the 40th anniversary box with all the other little figures and stuff. So, he's still hanging on and looks just as great as he did when he came out of the box. Let's see. We'll do We'll do the 68 Parababy. I love this. They did 2 different color versions. They did the yellow and green, and then the blue or bluish purple combination. This one's beautiful, but I prefer green and orange just because you can see everything so much clearer on it, and it's such a great figure. The sculpt is amazing. Highly recommended for anybody that wants to get into the Parababies and Marmot and stuff like that. This one here is a one-off. It was painted by the owner of US Toys. Sorry, I forget his name off the top of my head. I don't know. Somebody help me out in the comments. Sorry. But anyway, this was made to match another one, which you're gonna see in a minute. I asked him if at G-Fest, I gave him a blank, and I was like, "Do whatever you want." And this is what he came up with. Such a beautiful design.
Cool.
Not Mark Nagata, right?
No.
Max. No.
Hiroshi.
I'm thinking somebody else. I'm thinking Max Toys. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have.
Unbelievable. Fake fan.
I know.
Turn in your Godzilla card.
So number 6, we'll do this. This is another one-off. This is a paint sample from Marmot of the 55. The original 2 versions were a pink version and a blue version. This one has a lot of reds, orange, blue, gold even on the back. It's so beautiful. I have a couple other paint samples of this same exact figure that, again, like we talked about before the show, will never be released because Marmot chose not to put them out there. So I've got the samples of those. So for my top 5,
Freaking top lists. I hate them.
I know.
We love them all.
So I'm actually going to remove it real quick because you guys already brought it. It's the 30 centimeter X Plus. It's one of my favorite figures, but you guys, I'm going to give you some different stuff. This one here is another paint sample from Marmot. The original version was brown, and then there were 2 mail-away versions. One of them was a tannish color, and it had some blue. Actually, let me grab them real quick for you. So this is the original one, just like the movies. Came out 2005. And this was one of the mail-away versions. So this one is kind of rare. And then this is the other mail-away version. You can see it's more of an orange color, like I was saying. And this is the paint sample. So this paint is, the figure is actually gray. So it's a gray vinyl. And then it's got tones of gold and blue and purple. It's beautiful to me.
Mm-hmm.
This one here is number 3. This was...
Yes!
There's only 20 of these made in the world. These were officially licensed in Tokyo. And this one here was actually given to me by Tom Kitagawa, the Millennium Godzilla suit actor. He had
Okay.
his collection, and at one of the All Monster Attack shows, he's like, Jessica, I have something for you. And when he pulled this thing out, man, I started bawling my eyes out. Like,
Oh.
Did you know it existed at the time?
I did know it exists, but again, it was so rare. It's like the paint samples. You know, there's only 20 of them in the world. But those, like, they're one-offs, and they'll never get made again. So the fact that Tom himself, Godzilla, gave me this is in a glass case. Like, this is one of the holiest grails I think I could ever achieve, and besides getting the suit.
Congratulations on that one.
Thank you. This is another very special one. Christine fought tooth and nail for this thing for hours. This is the Altair G1. It's glow in the dark. There's a couple different versions of this. There's the one that actually looks like the suit, and it has the spikes are glowing like this.
Oh, okay.
That's a kit you put together yourself. These ones all come together. This one here, which is the second version. Then you have the pure glowy version. And then the fourth version is a combination of these two, where it's like a darker blue on the bottom, but it's pure white on the top. So it's beautiful. I'm still on the lookout. That is another grail that is been in the works for well over 10 years probably now.
Okay.
This one here is also my most expensive figure. Christine won this for me right before G-Fest, and I was afraid I wasn't going to make it to G-Fest because I will tell you it was over $1,000.
Oh, wow.
It's also signed by the CEO and sculptor from Altair G1, and I've got that put away safely.
Was it the header card that it came with?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And my number one figure is Rainbow Anguirus.
Okay.
This was given to me by Yuji and Michi Nishimura, the owners of M1.
Okay.
They are very close friends of mine, and every once in a while, Yuji he brings me, gifts just like he brings other people to G-Fest, and this was one that he specifically made for me. I had asked what year they had made them, and they're like, oh, no, there's no more of those. I was like, oh, man, okay. Well, he surprised me and showed up with one.
Wow.
So, yeah, this is probably my number one figure. It's my favorite. It means so much to me. Just, I'm sure you all know why. And so that's my top 10. I mean, it definitely shifts from time to time, where like this one will take number one. Oh wait, I'm sorry. That's number 9. That's number 9. We forgot for number one.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So these two switch places all the time. This will be my favorite from one point, and then it's like that one's my favorite. So it's like it depends on the day or the week. So
That's fine.
this is definitely the number one right now. This figure means the world to me. Haru Nakajima actually had this in his hands. If you go on my Facebook page, it's my header picture. It'll forever be my picture. The weekend Steve brought this to me, David was walking around with it, taking pictures with Keith and everything. And the box for this thing, you guys, I can't get the box. It's way too big. I mean, you can clearly see 3 feet long.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful figure. I mean, look at the detail, and he sizes perfectly with the X Plus giant the line.
Gigantic line, yeah.
But I can't wait. I've been waiting forever for X Plus to do like either an 04 or a giant version of Anguirus, because I love the X Plus 30 centimeter. And yeah, as Robert just said, this is the Hiroshima or Skynet kit, whatever you decide to call it, but I call it the Hiroshima. But yeah, this is number one.
Can you tell the story of how you got that home?
Oh my god!
I like that story.
So clearly, I mean, this guy's together, right? Like you're pulling on it, and you're not getting it apart, right? So on the way home, flying from California, I got this at Monster Palooza, and I had to get it home. I also had my big suitcase. This thing's not going to fit in a suitcase. So I'm literally walking around the airport like this. This lady out of nowhere comes up to me and she's like, "Is that thing alive?" Dead serious.
I would have been like,
So I'm like wiggling his tail and like I'm, playing with it, and I was like, "No, ma'am." I was like, "It's a toy." She's like, "Oh, I'm sure your child's gonna love that." I was like, "Child?" I was like, "No." So we start boarding, and the boarding lady's just looking at me like, "What are you doing?" So I get on the plane, and I had booked an exit seat, and luckily, there was a middle seat that nobody else booked, and then there was a lady on the other side. So the stewardess is like, "Well, your dragon's got its own seat. You got to strap it." So I'm the dragon, it's Anguirus. So I literally had to strap him into the seat like this. I got pictures of it, and so yeah, we had quite the trip going from California to Rhode Island, and I documented everything. You can see him laying in the hotel bed to the plane and everything.
the photos on the plane are great.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was quite the adventure getting this home, and then the model kit that Greg painted for me, that was home too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that top 10.
Beautiful.
That was really awesome. And again, I know at some point I'm sure it'll change, but for right now, this is where it stands. And your collection is absolutely amazing. Your Anguirus collection. Again, I'm floored whenever I see just the snippets of your room, your collection is like, wow, I know you. The fact you had that many Anguirus and you were devoted to that one kaiju, your favorite kaiju, means a lot. I'm sure it inspires a lot of people, So that's awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep being a positive pillar in our community. And we look forward to seeing more of your collection. And that's pretty much going to do it for us for this celebrating 70 years of Anguirus show. I want to thank everybody in the chat for being here. I really do appreciate it. Of course, I want to thank also again Queen Anguirus, Jessica Etchells, of course, Mr. Fresh Vinyl himself, Richard Eso, and of course Nick Adam Poling for the Monster Report. Thank y'all so much for being here. I called y'all showed up, and I really do appreciate it, even with on short notice. So thank you so much for being troopers for me. I really do appreciate it. Before we plug, y'all plug whatever you got coming up on your respective platforms. Let's give our final thoughts of Anguirus. Last question. What do you think Anguirus legacy will be in the grand scheme of things? Jessica, go.
So my first interaction with Anguirus was actually in '73. He just runs across the screen. You see him a little bit, and it's like, what was that? Who was that? So that sent me on this track of like tracking down Anguirus and finding out what it is. As far as what his legacy is going to be, again, I think, unfortunately, I feel Toho has dropped the ball when it comes to Anguirus and where they should go with him. I would love to see them use him properly from now on in future projects, but I unfortunately feel like he gets drowned out by, you know, the big top five as and I would really like to see him, like I said, get earn his star, you know, be up in the top five where he really should be. So, what about you, Rich?
Definitely would love to see him in the Monsterverse. You know, if Rodan's up there, then why is not Anguirus? But I think his legacy is gonna. I think for me to sum him up simply, the little scrapper that could.
Yeah.
You know, because he's not afraid to throw down. He's somebody that, you know, you look at him, it's like, hey, I could count on him. You know, it's kind of like, you know, well, I don't know if you can count on me, but I'm a little scrapper. But you know, I love his not back down attitude kind of thing. You know, he might have the odds against him, but he's still gonna show up.
Yeah.
Nick.
Yeah, I think you know, his legacy will be, again, being that he is the first kaiju to duke it out with Godzilla, go toe to toe against him. I think that's a great legacy to have, but I think he needs more recognition.
Yeah.
He's definitely the underdog, and I'd love to see him in Monsterverse or anything new that's coming on, you know, with Toho, of course, a -1 sequel. Anything that we can see him in. You know, aside from Singular Point, obviously, you know, we had him in there. That was great. Glad they used the Anguirus roar, at least, you know, the actual Anguirus roar. That was cool. But yeah, we need more Anguirus. We need Godzilla's buddy. We need his best friend. I think that, you know, or we need to see him duke it out again. I don't know. You know, maybe that would be cool to see too on the big screen. But yeah, he definitely needs to come back. Don't mind if they do some working around to redesign him and modernize him a little bit. That's fine. You know, these days, unless we're getting the short films, we're not going to see suit actors. We're not going to see the tokusatsu, you know. But, you know, that would be kind of cool to see him in you know, one of the short films. None of the short films have had it even. So let's see him again, you know, whether it's CGI or a suit actor again. But yeah, he definitely needs his moment in the spotlight again. And I got to keep throwing out my boy Varan. You know, he still hasn't got his moment since the original Varan. He's always pushed to the back, way in the back, so far in the back you can't even see him. So
Varan was in the NES game and Anguirus wasn't.
That's true.
Yeah, and he has his own movie. Anguirus doesn't.
Yep.
But
His
I
solo movie.
Yeah, I need to see him again, though. I need him to come back. You know what? A solo Anguirus movie, I go for that too. But of course, I can't get enough of any of these kaiju. You know, the non-Godzilla kaiju. You know, give them their moment. You know, they're doing that with, like, you know, the Marvel and, you know, DC and all these. They'll give them their Star Wars, even a solo movie on, you know, a certain character and or a series. You know, that's fine. Do that with the monsters. Do that with the kaiju. Give me some solo films other than just Rodan, Mothra, you know, you know, and Varan and whatever else. But yeah, let's get an Anguirus movie in there and see a solo there. You know, Godzilla can have a cameo in his movie.
Yeah.
All right, Leslie, take it away.
I do believe that his legacy, again, he will always be more associated with being Godzilla's ride or die partner, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But I do believe, again, as I mentioned earlier or several times during this stream, that he should be acknowledged more as being the first opponent. And the first opponent that did give Godzilla a good fight. You know what I'm saying? Again, it wasn't a one-sided affair. Again, in my opinion, it could have gone either way, but since Godzilla's a title character, that's why they went with that way, obviously. But they made Anguirus look strong in his first outing. He wasn't a pushover, you know. Then he would transition later on into being a loyal sidekick, a worthy tag team partner, you know, whatever. And I think he's in a good place because Anguirus is one of those kaiju that you really don't ever hear people say he's overrated or I don't see what the big deal is with him. It seems like everybody loves him. Everybody has an affection for him. They either want him as a pet or something like that. I hardly ever hear anybody talk anything bad about Anguirus. If anything, they talk about the movies he's in, and that's not his fault. I mean, it's not his fault that Gigan wasn't the best in the world. It's not his fault that 55 was a rush sequel. You know, it's not his fault that Final War is what it was.
But he still showed up.
He still showed up. And he's
considered. May always be the underdog, but us underdogs, we never give up.
Right. And he's like considered like a good thing in overall bad situation. And you know what? That's a compliment. You know what I'm saying? So I do feel like we do give him his just due. But I do feel like as a whole, like from Toho, like what Jess said, he does deserve a lot more recognition. Yeah. But I tell you what, if Toho doesn't do it, we fans are going to do it. And we've been doing it for the past 70 years because everybody loves, again, I'd hardly ever hear anybody say anything bad about him, but I believe that everybody loves our favorite four-legged radiated ankylosaurus, Anguirus or Anguirus or Anguirus, or doesn't matter what the hell you say, it's still the same. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, we're going to close this show out. Again, thank you to everybody for being here. Of course, Jessica, Queen Anguirus, Nick Adam Poling from Monster Report, and Mr. Fresh Vinyl himself, Richard Eso. Go around the room. Please talk about, plug what you got coming up on your respective platforms. Jesse, go.
So for Japan Legends, we do have a couple conventions coming up. So May 31st through June 1st, we have Linda Miller going to Kaiju Brooklyn. We got some great friends that are involved with that, running that. John, Chris. If you guys can go to that show, I highly recommend it. Unfortunately, I have yet to be there, but from all the pictures and good things we've heard people say, we can't wait to go. In June, Father's Day weekend, June 14th and 15th, we have Ultraman Bin Furuya going to Texas at the Tokyo X-Con. So if you guys are in Texas, come on down, come see us. Or the very next month, we're going to be at G-Fest with Bin Furuya also. Come out, see us. Ben always loves seeing his fans. He loves connecting with you guys. But yeah, we've got a couple things going on at Japan Legends. Can't really announce it all yet, but keep an eye on our page and you'll see, maybe some Middle Earth stuff coming at you.
Yeah.
How about you, Rich?
Okay. First off, Jess, we need to get together again and do another episode of Fresh Vinyl Cribs.
100%.
To really, I mean, you could do it on your own. I'm just saying, I would like to do it again. I have a lot of fun doing that. Just did one with Leslie. So, if you're down, stay tuned for that. We could get together and get that together soon. For me, I have literally, it's waiting in the batter's box, another review for my Bandai Marathon on Bandai. It's the Bandai Mothra 1961 figure / 64 figure. It's a little boring, I'm not going to lie, but as we get into those 60s films, these my videos will have more figures and I'll be able to talk about it a lot more. Other than that, got some other reviews coming. I still got some Sofubi stuff I got to do. So more content on the channel. I keep saying this, but it might bring back Fresh Vinyl Live. But there's just so many TV shows here on, or streams that we have. But if I do, it's still going to be a stripped down version. I'll stream just talking stuff. It could be figures, movies, whatever, having a good time. you know, just laid back type of thing. But we'll see. We'll see. I gotta pay for StreamYard, so I was looking at, you know, what the cost is. So I'm close to just paying. It's like $400 something, like for a year. You know, I could buy more landscape lights, but we'll see. Anyway, I already did that. But yeah, so stay tuned for my channel. And yeah, Nick.
All right. And yeah, I'm so glad to know that Fresh Vinyl Live is on the, maybe, you know, the back burner for you, but I'd love to see it come back because that is awesome. And Rich has been a pioneer in the community. You, along with Leslie, Kyle, and of course, Miss Kaiju Queen herself, Jessica. And I've met Jessica long ago at G-Fest. It's been a long time since I've been there. So reconnecting with you today has been awesome. And I'm going to throw out an invite for you to be on my show, the Monster Report Live, at some point. And
I would love to be on.
Yes, and yeah, we could talk Anguirus, Anguillosaurus, Anguirus, any of these, or we could talk just general kaiju, collecting, movies, music, anything. That would be great because I know you're just a wealth of knowledge, and you know you love this stuff just as much as the rest of us.
Absolutely, I'm game.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, May 3rd coming up. I have my first in studio at Monster HQ, Monster Report Live with Adrian Serafin of the Real Kaiju Collectors. So he actually lives in the same state as me, Indiana. So we'll be doing that. We just had the Ray Harryhausen collection at Kalamazoo Museum, and Kaiju United and Nathan Marchand did a write-up on that, did a short video for that. I've got a longer form video coming up this week on that, probably Wednesday that'll come out, and it's going to be us going through all the exhibits of the Harryhausen stuff that was there. It was really an awesome trip, and that happened, not too long ago. And so, again, coming up May 3rd will be that. May 18th, Mr. Rich Eso. I've got him on my schedule, so he is going to be for the first time on the Monster Report Live. This is a long time coming. It should have been happening a long time ago, but I'm glad to have it. You know,
you tried to plan this like a year ago, and I fell off the face of the earth. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. But the more I can support kaiju content creators, the better, because, you know, I say it's my audience to your audience and your audience to mine, and we all benefit from it. And we're not in competition with each other. We just love what each other is doing, and we celebrate the wins, you know, that we're getting as, you know, these content creators. And, you know, what Collect All Monsters is doing is fantastic too. So I just support you guys, especially the ones who have inspired me to create this channel, the Monster Report, and, you know, getting just under 1,600 subscribers to 100,000 here on the Monster Report. It's because of these pioneers and the inspiration that they have given me to get to that point. But
wait,
what's up?
Did you say 100,000 subscribers?
Currently sitting as we speak at 98,442. So we are so close. So it's right there. It's like a silver plaque.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
Like literally impressive. Very good. Great
but again,
job.
It's thanks to the community. It is, and it's thanks to so many who have supported the channel for 10 years plus now, that this has been, and it's honestly thanks to Legendary. If I didn't have that one video that went super viral because Legendary retweeted it, that was awesome. That was such a shot in the arm for a small content creator at that time. But yeah, it's because of the love and support. I can't say it's because of me necessarily, but I also love that I can bring my family into this. We do some fun skits. So if you haven't had the chance to see some of the skits we've been doing, it's all family friendly, and you know, the kids are part of it, and I love it, and they're going to become little content creators too. So again, thank you all. Thank you for being here and waxing philosophically with me over Anguirus and our spiky boy here and collectibles and everything that has to do with this. And I look forward to talking to you guys again too very soon. So thank you so much.
No problem. And on Collect All Monsters, our next episode, I believe, is I think May 16th, I believe. I think it's the weekend after Mother's Day. And I think from what Kyle said, we're going to do a Mecha Madness show where we're discussing everything Mecha Godzilla, Mechanicon, Mecha King Ghidorah, Mogera, yay, other Mecha, stuff like that. So that will be the next episodic show on Collect All Monsters. And again, I got so many strings. I'm doing supplemental videos. Of course, you will see these wonderful faces again at some point. I want to do a discussion involving the Death of Goji collectibles. Rich can be a part of that. I want to bring
James Hartman in on that one.
Yeah, James Hartman and a couple other people. I told Jess I want to bring her back. I want to bring her and people who are associated with collecting just one kaiju outside of Godzilla. Like she does Anguirus, Andy Peters does Hedra, Nick Size does Titanosaurus, stuff like that. I want to bring people together. Kyle does Guy again, stuff like that. I want to do a stream like that. I'm actually doing a Father's Day stream for the first time this year, where we're going to be celebrating with other dads in the fandom, where we're going to be celebrating the offsprings of Godzilla, Mania, Little Godzilla, and all that.
Oh, my mom will like that one then.
That should happen like around Father's Day. Around Father's Day. So Nick, if I didn't invite you, you're more welcome to join that as well.
You already did. So yeah, I'm all on it. Yep.
Oh yeah. Okay. Because my brain is. It is what it is, but yeah, we already celebrated Titanosaurus earlier this year. We're doing Anguirus today. Haven't forgot about Baragon, because I know the original plan for this show was going to do like a debate episode between Anguirus and Baragon, or at least a celebration of both, but still kind of put a debate twist in there. I was going to have not only Jessica and everybody here, but Everett Grondin, who's a huge Baragon fan, and David Dobko and Vince Elliott. Because they're Baragon fans as well, but they're also fans of the Ultra Kaiju that the Baragon suit was turned into. So I was going to have like a debate show for that. But I changed course and just decided, you know what? Anguirus has been, again, put in that lackey sidekick category for so long that he deserves to have everything just put on him. Like, he deserves to have the spotlight, just one show devoted to him. He's always sharing the spotlight with other Kaiju. But you know what, Angie? It was all about you today, my friend. So that's the reason why we did that. For Anguirus, but we got so much stuff coming on Collect All Monsters, and so much content, between myself, Nick Adam Poling from the Monster Report, Fresh Final Reviews, Jessica with Japan Legends, Collect All Monsters, whatever. And also Monster with Attitude, got to plug them, because in like an hour from now, they're going to be doing a live stream show celebrating pretty much everything Bandai, which I'm sure is the first of many shows to come, because you can't cover Bandai in one show unless they're going to be here for 8 hours. And I don't think they're doing that.
And 8 hours ain't enough either.
No. So please check their show out in just an hour at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Monster with Attitude. They're doing an appreciation for Bandai and their figures on their show. Please check that out. So we have so much, y'all have so much to look forward to, in our fandom, between fans, giving back to the fans with content creation, not to mention what Toad's going to do, what the Monsterverse are going to do. Again, as I said many times before, we have nothing to complain as fans. So let's just shut the hell up and enjoy the ride, because we have an awesome ride ahead of us. Not to mention G-Fest is coming up in a couple of months. We're getting closer and closer to it. So can't wait to see y'all there, in Tip, Chicago. Hopefully we won't get arrested. That's another story, but still, it is what it is. But at the same time, I want to thank every single one of you for being here, as well as Jessica, Rich, and Nick for being here. And of course, we got to thank the big guy himself, the man in the hour, Anguirus, Anguillosaurus. Thank you very much, good sir. You have entertained us for all these many years. You have been there for us for all these many years. We love you. We love your death. And we're going to keep shout your name to the heavens and still enjoy your movies and your products, because you are that awesome. Yes, you are. You're not overlooked. You are loved. All right. So with that being said, let's just end this show right now. And normally I do the catchphrase at the end of the show where I say blah, 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 blah. Then we end, we say collect all monsters. We all shout it out at the end. But this time I want to shout collect all Anguiruses. So when I get to that point, I want y'all to say it with me. Okay. Collect all Anguiruses. You got me? All right. So again, thank you to Jessica. Thank you to Rich. And thank you to Nick and everybody in the chat. We really do appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next Collect All Monsters episode. Yes, yes, yes. So until next time, our planet may be doomed, our Earth devastated, the monsters are in revolt, and civilization is in chaos. We must unite and collect all Anguiruses.
Living.
Says, or Anguirus, whatever.
And remember, people, buy vinyl, fresh vinyl. Bam!
That's what's up. Bye, folks. Take it easy. We out of here.